Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another SnapTech IT webinar. Today, our topic is CMMC 2.0. We're going to take a closer look into level 2 and what that kind of structure looks like, and answer some questions around level 2 CMMC. So, to kick us off, I'm Shawn Brown. I'm the president of SnapTech IT, and I'll be your kind of host today, and I got my good buddy and partner here, Karl Bickmore. Karl, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. How's it going, Shawn? Good to see you.
Well, honestly, I'm a little cold today. A little chilly outside, so I'm all bundled up. But besides that, I'm doing good.
I think
so we're gonna. What's that?
I think I can't get cold enough, and that's me in Arizona. So go figure.
Oh, I hear you. All right, so we're going to kick off today, and like I said, go through some CMMC level 2 kind of structure. You know, it feels like here in the last couple of months, CMMC has definitely made a big change, and lots of moving parts and things that are being adjusted and kind of consolidated for this defense industrial base contractors. So, Karl, any thoughts before we kick this off and start talking about level 2?
Yeah, well, so look, anybody who's listening to this that is interested in how CMMC has changed or is likely to change with the new version 2 coming up, this is the webinar for you. Also, just a little bit about SnapTech IT. Look, we're a registered provider organization, oftentimes called an RPO, but we're also just a long-standing company that does cybersecurity risk assessments, compliance risk assessments. We do IT work. Oh, hey, look at it. We even got a slide for this. I'm way on it. So we help folks with projects on our professional services team. We help folks with cloud migrations. And I think the thing that has always worked for us is we've always looked at IT and cybersecurity as kind of although it's different skill sets, kind of one and the same, in the sense that good IT without good cybersecurity is just far too risky. And so you'll find a lot of how we approach the market is focused on just good IT that every business needs, making the right choices around cybersecurity to reduce the risk. And then, when you add something like CMMC into the mix, or even other compliance standards, that's all about making sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's along with good IT. And that's our approach. It's not about just saying, hey, you got to do this or else you're going to fight. It's about what makes sense, and it's about putting it into a practical understanding. And so that's what I'm excited to talk about today is the CMMC 2.0. In a lot of ways, I think that it's changed to make it better for the everyman, or the person that's got a business that what was coming down before was going to be way too burdensome. It's still a lot of work. Still fundamentally, you need to do a good job with this, but it's not as burdensome as it was before, and I see that as a plus.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So, all right. So our first question that I have for you today, Karl. So my understanding, CMMC 2.0 level 2 looks a lot like CMMC 1.0 level 3. So what framework do level 2 requirements now follow?
Well, so in version 1, there was levels 1 through 5, and basically what they did is they just took 2 out and 4 out. And I totally agree with that, because I found every time I was in a conversation with somebody about the different levels, I couldn't explain why you would ever do level 2 and not also need to go to level 3. There just didn't seem to be a meaningful distinction, other than maybe it's helpful to say, well, get this far and then you're halfway there and get the rest. And same between level 4 and 5. And so what was level 3 is now level 2. What was level 5 is now level 3, and it's a 3-level system. But the other piece is there was additional practices and controls that were introduced in version 1 that came into effect by what used to be level 3, now the level 2. And those controls have now been set aside. And I think this is really going to help from the confusion standpoint, because now level 3 is 100% aligned with NIST 800-171, which is the federal government subcontractor standard. Now, and a lot of our customers that we're talking to, they may not be the direct subcontractor, or the prime subcontractor, but they're somewhere in the defense industrial base or somewhere in the food chain, as you would say, as a subcontractor. And as such, they have the same requirements on them. That's actually already the law of the land and has been. It's already a requirement, but now the CMMC process is about aligning 100% to the 800-171 controls when you're looking at level 2. The only thing I just add for those that are curious, thinking about level 3, then there's some additional controls that get added from 800-172. And so they all build on each other like before. Level 1 has remained relatively untouched. Level 2 is now just the controls for the 800-171. And that's kind of how that goes. And here's the big distinction. You're asking yourself, do I need to do any CMMC? Do I need to do level 1, 2, or 3? The answer, the biggest guiding answer to that is 1, do you work with federal contract information or in the defense industrial base? If so, you need to do level 1, which is the basic.
It's like you're teeing me up for my next question here.
Okay, great. Well, the next thing I was going to say, if you're level 2, is if you have control of classified information. So there you go. Go ahead with your next question.
Speaking of controlled unclassified information, so if I'm a contractor, Karl, and I handle controlled unclassified information, am I expected to be level 2 certified?
Yes. If you have any form of CUI, and CUI can be any number of things. It can be email, it can be drawing files, it can be physical paper with information on it that's deemed controlled unclassified information. And hey, look, let's get one thing straight about this whole CMMC process. The entire goal of this is to raise the cybersecurity awareness amongst the defense industrial base. And this is primarily falling down amongst private companies that participate on contracts that have very poor cybersecurity hygiene. And the biggest risk to our society, our community here, our government, is the classified things or the unclassified but controlled information that finds its ways into those companies, and those companies get hacked. And they hence find their way into even more dangerous stuff. And so look, if you're handling CUI, that is the primary goal. That is the aim of the federal government. That's the aim of this entire thing. And if you have any of it, level 2 is where you got to go, which is, you know, a lot more work than level 1. Level 1 is 17 controls. Level 2 is 110. And there's just different ways you can go around it. So the other thing I think is important about level 2, though, and this is a big change, is for some folks that have CUI, they will be deemed as prioritized. So if you question whether you're prioritized or not, the answer is you'll know. Your subcontractor, your prime, or the defense agency, or whoever you're working with will tell you, hey, this information you're getting, this CUI is prioritized. And that will mean that you have to undergo a third-party assessment, which is, you know, a little bit of an expense in the process. But if you don't have the prioritized CUI, you can now self-assess.
Yeah, which leads me directly into that kind of next question that I was talking about. So with the restructuring of the levels, you know, I'm wondering how CUI will be managed in level 2, directly in line with what you were just describing for us.
Yes, they say I'm like just a slide ahead of everything. Look, this is the information. Look, the point is that if it's non-prioritized, which I think a lot of folks who have CUI that are simply maybe obscure drawings that are hard to relate to something, or something around federal contract information that just, you know, states who has a contract for what project. Look, self-assessment is going to be the path, which is a huge cost savings, and it also kind of allows you to kind of move along a different time frame. That being said, though, look, talk to your prime contractors. They're going to tell you what their expectation is for their time frame of how quickly they want things implemented. But the point is that if you are doing assessment, you now don't have to hire the third-party assessor. It doesn't mean, though, that your assessment can be imperfect or that it can have major flaws in it or missing data. You still need to conduct an assessment, a self-assessment, for which you can hire people to consult with to help you create that. And so the key thing is just because now you don't have to hire the third-party assessors that are certified, doesn't mean that that assessment is somewhat less valid. It just means that now it will probably cost you less to get it. And if you have talented internal IT people, they may be able to help in the process. But a real big word of caution is do not assume that just because you have good IT folks that they know how to do a self-assessment, that they're trained, or that they understand the controls. In my experience, even within our own team of IT professionals, that most do not know, and until they've been trained how to do that and how to answer controls and the plans and the documents that need to be created, that self-assessment will be inaccurate or incomplete or incorrect, just flat out incorrect. And so it's not as though you shouldn't have any rigor around it anymore, but it is important that you note that you're going to save some costs on what would have been additional assessor fees.
And once again, I feel like you're right on the money. Self-assessment, right?
Yeah.
So self-assessment options for contractors required to secure level 2, particularly those that handle CUI. What are we looking at there? I mean, you already touched on it a little bit, but any other words of wisdom you can kind of share with us on that?
Well, so I think there's a couple of things that people like. The real thing is, it's like, okay, so I can self-assess. What does that mean? What if I don't know how to do that? What would that cost, or what is the amount of effort that it takes? A couple of things I would say about self-assessment is, one is you probably need a governance, regulation, and compliance tool, what's called a GRC tool. And if you don't know of one, or you don't know how to operate one, then that's a great place to get consultation from a registered provider organization like SnapTech or other people that know about this. But you should be able to get a GRC tool going to begin the process of managing your answers and your documents and your evidence collection and how you do this. But you know, when you're just first starting out, I would say start by self-assessing yourself at level 1. For which, you know, SnapTech, we have on our website in our CMMC Resource Center some questions that can kind of give you an idea of where you're sitting on level 1 just to get yourself started. And that's our online self-assessment tool. It's not really meant to be a full assessment, but more give you a gauge as an owner or a manager or an IT director of the kind of the questions you're going to be looking at and behaviors you need to be aware of. And after you've gotten yourself into the mindset of what it takes for level 1, then, you know, start shooting for level 2 if you know that you have CUI data that you need to protect, because that's when you need to get into the much larger set of controls and get even further down that path. And that's where things like GRC tools, consultative expertise is helpful. A lot of people get confused. They say, well, if it's a self-assessment, how can I hire a consultant to help? And the answer is, reality of it is you probably should have a consultant do it, even if it's not a third-party assessor, and just make sure that they're aware of the standard. That's what is the benefit of, for instance, a registered provider organization that has been trained and background checked and known to know the standard well. But they can charge you in different models, and it won't be as formal as a certified third-party assessment. But in the grand scheme of things, they're going to hand it to you. You have to review it, determine that it is accurate, and the owner or the only entity needs to sign off that that is a true assessment, that is valid and correct. And they can be held accountable to it, even as far as from the False Claims Act for fines. And so self-assessment is great, but it doesn't mean you can't have third parties help you. In fact, it's sometimes difficult to have your existing team assess themselves. You may not get a true answer. And so sometimes you just need an additional third party. That's what we recommend that our customers do. If they're using us for IT services, they can have us prepare them for it, but ultimately somebody else should assess them, not the same people that do the IT. And it just goes in all directions. But you know, look, there's some great tools out there that can help you start to understand what the questions are. There's some online things. We have some at snaptechit.com, and you know, start looking towards how you're going to gain the expertise to do a self-assessment. It's the only thing I can say is the good news is it's going to be more available than the small list of third-party assessors that were certified. They were never going to be able to get to assessing everybody that they were going to have assessed, and so it's more accessible, right, and it shouldn't be as burdensome as it was going to be. You know.
Yeah, fantastic. So the next kind of topic, the question that I've got for you is, we've got our assessment, Then we're going to create this document called a POAM, right? This plan of action and milestone. So I know we could use those in level 1, right? How about level 2? What role does this POAM now play in CMMC level 2?
Well, the plan of act. Well, there's really kind of like 3 documents total that you really want to come after. The first is probably a system security plan if you don't have one, or an SSP, and that's going to just define your policies and procedures, which are very important that you need to have. And a plan of action and milestones is basically you saying to whatever organization that is going to check your assessment that, hey, we may not meet all the requirements, say for instance level 2 today, but we have this plan that says by 2024 in December we will meet it because we're going to take these actions, and here are the major milestones we're going to hit to cover those controls. And so the key things is, like, the use of POAM to get, say, provisional approval on a contract has now been increased. And so you can use that as a mechanism more than it was allowed before. And so the reality of it is you can start to participate in contracts today if you get a good assessment in place, and you can provide a plan of action milestone that within a time frame says when you're going to meet the requirements that you're supposed to be able to meet. And so the key things is the plan of action and milestones are going to be allowed more than before, but there are certain circumstances, particularly when it has a level 3 certification instead of level 2, or when it's considered a protected CUI or additional higher class, that you may not be able to use a plan of action and milestone to be able to get provisional approval to still participate in the contract. And so, look, a lot of folks are going to be able to use that mechanism now, which is a great mechanism of saying, look, we have a plan. But just bear in mind that the plan you put forward is a plan that you've made yourself accountable for, that you've said, hey, look, this is what we claim that we're going to do so we can participate in the contract. And once again, you can be held accountable and be fined or be removed from a contract if you make a false statement or you don't follow through.
Yeah, just one last thing on the plan of action and milestones. I'm pretty sure we have this posted on in our resources section on our site, but there's a video that I did maybe about 2 months ago, a webinar I did, really short, that kind of just describes the plan of action and milestone and the different columns that you need to have in there and what that document needs to look like and how you can use it. So all right, next question for you. People love policies and procedures, Karl. So 2.0 eliminates a lot of the process requirements, right? But how do policies and procedures still kind of play a role in this CMMC 2.0?
Well, that's probably like the #1 difference between, say, level 1 and level 2, aside from the fact that level 1 has a lot less controls. It's considered just basic fundamental at level 1. But when you move into level 2, not only do you need to demonstrate that you have cybersecurity things in place and configured in a certain way, you also need to demonstrate that they are administered via policy and procedure. And so you can be doing all of the things necessary for a control, like say maybe it's an authentication control and you've implemented multi-factor authentication for email or remote access, and you're doing the things that you need to around that. But if you don't have that documented in a policy and have a procedure around it, and then have some kind of regular audit checking validation of that, you have not met the control. You'd only be noted as partially implemented. And so you have to really take it all the way through creating policies that state you're going to achieve this control, and then procedures that kind of show how you're going to do that. And then you implement the control, and then you have some kind of audit or validation process that validates the control is functional and working. Without all those pieces, it's not going to get you what you're needing to do. And the reality of it is if your only goal in life is just to become compliant and check off the boxes, maybe you could go grab some policy template and tell everybody you're doing everything. But the fact of the matter is the amount of risk you're introducing to your environment if you don't actually follow through and clearly say what you're going to do from a cybersecurity standpoint and say how you're going to go about it and then do it and measure it. You have no assurance that it's actually happened. I can't tell you how many times we've come into a business and they're like, oh yeah, we do backup great. We have on-site, off-site. We do it every hour. They could describe all these things about it. And then we look at it and find out that their backup is not even functional, let alone is it not compliant, right? And so there's a big deal about doing it and validating it, and policies, procedures, and auditing is the pathway to make sure it's actually happening. You ask yourself, how can I verify my IT guys are doing their nerdy stuff? Well, it's through good policies, procedures, and audit controls. You know, I like to talk to, like, a lot of machine shops that we talk to that fall into this. They already have control systems in place for their manufacturing. They already do quality control. They already know the processes and the steps. And I think something that I found really makes sense is when they say, hey, look, this CMMC is just another control system, a set of standards, policies, procedures, and audits that need to be done. It actually, if you think of it that way, it's just one more in the process of the ones you already do, because many of them are already doing ISO or ASI or one of the standards out there. And it's another one that functions very much in the same way. There's documents to be filled out. There's things to be validated and verified. And I can tell you, look, regardless of whether you want to be CMMC or not, taking this approach to IT is just good business practice. It's a way that you can ensure that you're reducing the risk of your business being attacked and having a major disruption from a ransomware event or some type of disclosure you have to do to your customers because you got their data lost or stolen or whatever it may be. And so it's a big deal, and it's something that everybody should really consider about how they operate their IT in general and the maturity level that they operate with that.
No, that's great. Okay, so one last question for you, and then I think we've got some questions that have come in. When we're talking about kind of affirming cybersecurity by senior company officials, my understanding, this is no joke, right? Affirmation kind of must be completed on an annual basis. Contractors need to consider this when they're kind of evaluating that kind of process. What can you tell us about it? Yeah,
look, the prosecutions of the False Claim Act has already gone up regarding this in 2021, and it's been openly stated by the government accountability officials that this is only going to increase. They're not looking to take the bite out of this. They're just changing how they were going to do it, in that you're not forced to do a third-party assessment, but you still have to be doing a correct assessment. And there are already fines being levied.
And I just can't make it up and fill out a document and turn it
in? Yeah. Well, you know, take whatever risk you want, you know. But the point is, look, I don't like sitting here like hanging like you're going to get fined if you don't do this. The reality of this is you should want to do this as any business. Certainly in our business, we go through third-party audits every year, and we have all sorts of scrutiny that comes in, and we really want to make sure we're doing a great job for our customers and our customers' information. And this is the reality of just showing people how to do proper IT management that's thorough and effective. And so regardless of the fines, but look, the senior officials, company officials, owners, they're going to need to sign off on this. It's their name on it. And I'd recommend that they don't take that lightly, and know that there is potential for fines that can be levied or removal from contract if they find that you've willfully or that you've misstated something. So it's important that you get it right. It's important you have the expertise to do it. And just remember that most IT people are not assessors. They don't know how to do it. They need to be trained for it, you know.
Got it. All right, well, I got a couple of questions for you here. So the first one, any word on when we might hear more details about bifurcation with CUI information between prioritized and non-prioritized categories?
You know, I haven't heard any word, and I'm involved in the community, but there is an open comment period right now, and I think it lasts for 9 months. And so I think it'll be somewhere mid to late 22 that we'll get more details about how they're going to do that. It's a little unsure, but there is a public comment period on some parts of this new 2.0 standard. And so I think that it's more to come, and I don't have any new information to share about that. But I'll tell you, if you are determined that you are prioritized, you can expect a third-party audit. One thing that's nice is they'll let you self-assess 2 years, and then on third year, it's formally assessed with a third party. And so it still can be done with a little less expense and a little less, look, there just aren't that many auditors out there to spread around how many companies this applies to. And so that's part of what they're trying to do, is figure out a way to make it practical that auditors can actually get out there and do it. But there isn't any word on the specific time frame of when they're going to provide greater clarity on that, other than there's an open comment period right now.
Okay. All right, so here's your next one. So we started our CMMC journey, taking initial steps to strengthen our cybersecurity practices, but how do we know if we're still on track for level 2 certification?
I think the thing is like anything that's a good sized project, it's not the kind of project that you can just pick up, put a lot of money and resources into, and 3 or 4 months later, problem solved. It's an ongoing thing. And if you approach it that way, you'll do better. So my question back to the person that put that one forward is, are you regularly meeting about it? Are you reviewing the plan of action and milestones on a regular basis? Are you putting out deadlines, and are people meeting them? Do you have sufficient understanding that the evidence being collected is legitimate and correct and complete for what would be found? Do you know that you're properly doing your scoring for your assessment for using the Department of Defense method? But if you're regularly having that conversation, and even if you don't know the answers to those questions, I would say, something where you're putting this on the calendar, you have your team formed, and this is a regular conversation, you're really a step ahead, because you're going to improve a little bit each week. And ideally, you get to the spot where you get through an initial full assessment that gives you the whole plan, the amount of time that you can do it in, and you can work with them on whoever creates that plan for you to figure out that time frame. And then it's just a matter of constant ongoing management. And remember, even after you got the plan of action milestone in place, even if that's a multi-year plan of action, you still need to do an annual assessment. And so assessment, do you have it on the calendar next assessment? Do you have the team set aside? Do you have the budget and resources for it? If you haven't put into action calendars, meetings, and start this process, you may not be on track. But if you're doing those things, I think you'll get there, and you'll be just fine.
Great. All right, I think we've got time for one more. So here's your last one. What is the best option for analyzing when we're where we are today in our cybersecurity efforts? So what is the best option for analyzing where we are today with our cybersecurity efforts?
Call SnapTech IT. No, I was kidding. Look, my opinion is it's very difficult to do a risk rating without getting an objective third party involved. And so if you want to know where you're at today, it is to start with an assessment. Even if that assessment is just getting you a handle on where you stand today and not a full formal development of all your policies and procedures, just kind of getting a roadmap together. So look, you can't solve a problem you haven't correctly identified. You must first identify, then you can put into the action plan, and you can look at your milestones, and then you can manage to your plan. And so the best option for analyzing where you're today, well, cybersecurity efforts, I start with some type of analysis. If you want to start at the very beginning, basic questions, check out our CMMC Resource Center at snaptechit.com. Just click at the top banner into the CMC area. Do that online free assessment that helps you understand. snaptechit.com/resources. There would be an example. Look at the level 1, answer the questions that can kind of give you a feel for whether you're even at level 1, and it just kind of as a starting point. And then from there, it's about getting into the formal assessment process. Those can range quite a bit depending on the size of the organization, but it's setting aside a little bit of budget and some time for somebody to come in with the expertise to help you put together that plan. And then once you've got that plan in place, you'll have an idea of the budget, you'll have an idea of the cost and the time frame that you can do it in, and to what level you're going to be going for. And really, without spending the time to do that, you're just guessing, and you're just maybe putting in little things that you need to do, but not really doing it in a planned fashion, and probably doing a mixture of going too far in some area and not far enough in others.
Great. Well, Karl, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much. Again, there's tons of resources out on our website, snaptechit/resources. If you got any questions, comments, we're always here to help. Karl, any parting words?
Yeah, I'd say, look, at our website, we've got a lot of blog articles. We've got some white papers and some things that might be helpful for people to understand things that we've done. Hit us up on our website, hit us up on LinkedIn. Feel free to engage us, ask some questions. I'm happy to answer questions anytime about a company's journey. Just get engaged. Give us a quick form fill out of your email address and your name, your phone number, and ask us to call you, and we'll call you. So let us know what we can do to help. We're happy to help. We think that this is an area that is good for us to focus our business in, and we're happy to be a part of the community. And we think that as long as we're out there providing good information, it'll be a win-win. Customers will know what they need to do, and it'll probably lead to more business for us. And so we're excited to be a part of it,
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Keep an eye out. We'll have additional CMMC and other kind of webinar educational topics coming up in the near future. So until next time, we'll see you. Bye.
Thank you.